Today, the main topic is actually a recording of a conversation that I had with another writer friend. So, this is a conversation between two writers recovering from burnout and trying to get back on the page without falling apart. This is another episode in our series on getting started over again or coming back to yourself and to your writing. And we talk about burnout, the fear of burnout, learning in public. We talk about journaling, still being writing, doing things that give us energy, creating structure, managing our energy levels. We talk about boundaries, building the structure to hold our personal growth, changing the way we put words on the page, and tricking ourselves to get back into the writing and writing in different patterns to avoid the emotional weight and responsibility that maybe writing had given us previously. We also talk about the id list, which we've talked about on the podcast before, and also the butter of the book, like what's going to make me really want to be on the page and spend time with these characters. We talked about outlining, reinventing ourselves as writers, what gives us satisfaction while writing a book. And then we talk about writing sprints and some writing times and routines. So I hope you find this conversation useful. Lots of wonderful tidbits in it, especially if you are recovering from burnout and how to get back on the page in a sustainable way. Hello, writers. I'm Valerie Ihsan, and this is episode 207 of the podcast, and it's March 31st, 2026, as I record this. I want to thank my existing patrons for believing in my work offline and here on the podcast. As you know, I've just revamped my Patreon page and I'm really pleased with it. I think you will really love the new tiers. I just have two now. It's super simple. You're either a supporter or a backer. And basically, both of them gets you all my content in any form from here on out and all my past books as well. The backer also gives you 2 coaching sessions a month. So if you've ever wanted continued support for your writing and accountability for projects, this is totally the way to do that. You can go to patreon.com/Valerie Ihsan, IHSAN. You can also support my friend and colleague, author Eric Mertz, at patreon.com/Strange Air Stories for short stories in the paranormal mystery genre. He's a really great writer. Okay, author updates. I have published a couple of videos and an essay with my patrons, and I am talking with some I've done 2 podcast interviews, and I also went to it was kind of a coaching session actually for myself on a nonfiction book project that I'm writing called Structure and Spark. And what else has been happening? More and more, we're getting our home like more functional. um, I have a doctor's appointment. We have doctor's appointments next week. The dogs are all done. Now it's our turn to get doctors and chiropractors. And we're going to get our post office box this week, I think. And we're also going to go to the storage unit this week to find some stuff that we would like to have around the house here. What else do we do? Last week we went down the mountain and tried to buy the Starlight antenna kit so that we would have satellite internet here, and they were out. So no Starlink antenna kit for at least a month, and hopefully we will get it in a month and they will have more at the store. So I've been doing The Artist's Way with my husband, And that has started out great. I love that book. I've read it maybe 5 to 7 times already. It's just one of those things that I go back to when I feel stuck. So um, I just finished reading The Crescent Moon Tea Room by Stacy Savinsky. It's a cozy fantasy. And what am I reading right now? Right now, I think I'm finishing up a book called The March Sisters. It's 4 essays written by 4 different writers about the Little Women, the different sisters. So one essay is on Meg, one's on Joe, one's on Beth, one's on um, Amy. So just some light reading. That's what I'm reading right now. So let's get into the main topic, and I hope you enjoy this conversation between myself and author Crys Cain.
Rica.
Man, I'm excited to talk Costa Rica with you and talk
I
writing with
know you're
you and
here. So are
talk
you guys here like mostly full time now?
totally full time. We
Excellent.
just moved here. We've been here a month,
That's what I thought.
maybe a month and a week or whatever. We started driving from Oregon on New Year's Eve,
Oh, how fun.
and it took us 7 weeks to get here.
I've known someone who did it in two, but like it was two people driving and they just like they only stopped to like sleep a little
Yeah.
bit.
And I figured because of that, I figured it would take us about 3 weeks. But
Mm-hmm.
then and we had thought we would just stay with our friend in Oaxaca, maybe 3, 4 nights, something like that.
Oh,
But
Oaxaca's lovely.
yeah, we ended up staying there a week, and we stayed with a friend in Texas who offered her place. We stayed there for like 5 days. And then there were a couple of places where we just needed to not drive. So we stayed in a beach in El Salvador for like 3 nights, and
Yeah, that's
every
better.
week or so we'd be like, "Ah, we just have to not drive tomorrow
Yeah.
and sleep in." And so those were kind of speckled in. And then there was one place in Mexico, Tehuantepec.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it is the windiest place in the world. There's like this 9 mile stretch or 9 kilometers where, yeah, it's super hard to drive because it's super windy. And we were
That's
high
wild.
profile because we had the thing on top. Plus, we were pulling a
Mm-hmm.
trailer, and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
like, and it was high wind advisory in the highest,
One
windiest
second.
place. So yeah, because of all of that, so we were kind of stuck there. We kept looking at the weather report every day,
Mm.
and finally it was like, all right, it says
Escaped.
it'll be good until like noon, so let's get up early and
Boom.
drive. And it really wasn't that bad at all, but probably if we had tried to drive some other time, it would have been terrible. So,
Yeah.
what's been going on in your world?
Oh my goodness. I basically I haven't published anything for profit in 3 years, I think.
Okay. And it
Um
started because of your co-writer dying?
yeah, well, I think honestly it started before that. Because, I was going through a really tough time in my relationship and that ended up being a full separation, divorce situation. And since I was writing romance, that was hard because I was like, I don't believe in romance. I still like hold on to a bunch of that emotion, right? And then so my co-writer was carrying a lot of the emotional weight in our writing, and like I was
Mm-hmm.
very much more like logistics and logic, and our fight scenes. And then when she died, like yeah, it just all fell on me for the series we were trying to complete, and I pushed it for a couple books, and then I just kind of disappeared off the face of the writing planet. It didn't help that I also, about the last time that we talked, in November of 2022, I think it was. Maybe 2023. 2023. I don't remember. One of those. Um, I November 2022. I got like this massive shoulder freeze up. I couldn't sit up for more than 20 minutes without agonizing pain. And that combined with the emotional burnout that was like already on its good downhill slope, I just basically quit everything.
Hmm.
Um, and then moved myself to back to small town because city life was not for me. Um, and have just kind of been coasting on the income from books I've already written and a few like odd jobs here and there. But I love my life now. I love my little
Hmm.
tiny community. I do a lot of volunteer stuff, but the energy
What
for
kind of thing
writing.
do you volunteering?
So the main thing right now is we've recently started a intercambio de idiomas, so a language exchange in Spanish and English. So we have a bunch of people who want to practice their English, we have a bunch of people who want to practice their Spanish, and then so we facilitate a time for that to happen, a place and a
Hmm.
time for that to happen, and then kind of serve as guides for the people who are earlier on in their language learning for both languages. And so we've got two Costa Rican ladies and two of us immigrant ladies who are organizing that. And it's been so lovely. The response has been just so fantastic and wonderful.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Mi español es muy mal todavía.
Sí, pero va a aprender rápido ahora que está en Costa Rica.
Yeah, I got like maybe three words of that.
It's all right.
Despacio,
I
por
do.
favor.
Yeah, you. I do think, and if you want to do, if a language practice would help, if I don't know what your situation is, if there's a lot of foreigners around you and it's harder to speak Spanish, because here where I live currently, that tends to be the case, is that it's not even the foreigners, it's that we live in a historically bilingual area with all the Jamaican immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's very easy to not learn Spanish where I
Hmm.
live, which is why moving to the city was a big help. It jump-started me a lot. And now it's much easier to continue on and learn. Um, but I don't know what your communal situation is where you live.
Well, the community that I am adjacent to is they're all expats, and most
Hmm.
of them are from Canada, US, and there's something else too. Maybe there's some a Polish contingency. I
Yeah,
can't remember. So
that's fun.
anyway, it's yes, mostly English is spoken in
Hmm.
the village, I guess
Yeah.
that we call it. But there's a lot of Ticos that work on staff. So
Hmm.
there's opportunity to speak Spanish
Yeah.
like anytime we want
You
with
just
the
have to
people.
want it and make it a practice, which is the
Yeah.
hardest part.
Well, and I mean, I want to. And
Yeah.
whenever there is a Tico here, like working on the house or something like that, then
Yeah.
yeah, of course, the attempt to speak in Spanish is paramount. And then I have to rely on Google Translate for some things that I'm just not. We took the dogs to the vet, but the vet speaks English, so I'm
Hmm.
trying to use Spanish. Like even the
Yeah.
waiter, we went out yesterday was my birthday. So we went to
Happy
this happy
birthday.
birthday. So we went to this like swanky hotel restaurant that I really
Hmm.
like. But not Tico prices. So, it's
Yeah.
not something that we do often. Anyway, we went there and the waiter, I initiated the conversation in Spanish, but he said, because I don't know, he heard us speaking or he just assumed because we were white. I don't
Yeah.
know. But he said that he spoke English or Spanish. And I said I wanted to practice Spanish, in
Hmm.
Spanish. So, so we continued speaking in Spanish, but
Yeah. Ticos are
it's very
generally really good about
Spanglishy.
that. Yeah. No,
Or
that sounds
I went
very
and
much
had
like
my
where I
nails
live.
done
Yeah.
for my
Hmm.
birthday, and there was one woman spoke English and one didn't. So I'm like thinking in my head, how do I say like this phrase and I'm trying to like figure out how I would say it. And I don't remember the verb for to spend. It's passer,
Mhm.
but I didn't remember at the time. So I was like, what could I say? To live? Could I equal, like I was trying to figure out how to like say something. And so I said it in Spanish and it totally came across. But then I said, like, okay, how should I have said it? Because obviously
Yeah.
that's not the way you would say it. So I learned some new Spanish, there. So
Love
yeah,
that.
that's how I'm doing Spanish. But now that we're mostly settled, I want
Hmm.
to go and take Spanish
Classes.
classes again
Nice.
here.
There is just recently published for like the first time, and this whenever you find a teacher or if you want an online teacher, I have a good recommendation of one who actually
Okay.
lives here. Um, they've just recently published the first textbooks of Costa Rican Spanish. They didn't have one
Okay.
before. They had to do Mexican and Colombian resources, but now there's a Costa Rican textbook, which is very
Okay.
exciting.
Yeah. Is that something you just buy on Amazon or like where is it
No, there's
at?
I can ask my friend the resource. I think you buy it from UNED, which is the distance education university here. I think they
Okay.
published it through them.
I still don't have like a post office box yet. That keeps being, every week I'm like, we gotta go get that, we gotta go get that. So I don't really have an address
Girl,
yet.
yeah, Correos. No, your address is the directions to your house, and Correos will bring it to you. If your phone number's on it, they'll call you. You send them your WhatsApp location, they bring it to you. It's wild.
Where,
It's
who?
wild.
Who does?
Correos de Costa Rica.
Correos. Is that the mail?
That's the post office. Yeah,
Oh,
the Costa
wow.
Rican
That's
postal
crazy.
service.
I think probably, wow. I mean,
They
we're
come
up
on
in the
little
mountains.
motos. They come on
There,
their motos.
we're pretty far out of the way.
But you can also just get it general delivery without a post office box to the post office and then
Okay.
go pick it up.
Yeah. I think that's what most people do, but
Yeah.
I want, but at this post office, they do
They
have
also have the post
pot
offices, yeah.
boxes. So I think I'll just go ahead
Yeah.
and do that. But
Yeah, our post office is in a town 20 minutes away from us and they still bring stuff to us.
yeah, Palmar it takes 20 minutes just to drive down the mountain to the highway.
Yeah.
And you need four-wheel drive. It's like a
Hmm.
really
Yep, yep.
with four-wheel drive kind of road. So yeah. And then from there, it probably takes like, I don't know, it's like 8 kilometers to Cortez.
Hmm.
Um, or no, I guess Cortez is pretty much close at the bottom of uh, uh, the road that comes down to the highway. But then Palmar is like 8 kilometers away. And the other way, Uvita is like half hour away.
Yeah.
So it takes us almost an hour to drive to Uvita from our house because of the,
Yeah. Yep, yep, yep.
so. So that's where I am. So when people ask me like what town I live in, I'm like, maybe Cortez, but that's such a tiny little blip. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't. So Uvita is the closest I think
that people know of.
that
Yeah.
people know of because that's where the Envision Festival is. Have you ever gone to that?
Uh, the heck no, that's too many people for me.
Okay,
The
I
the
haven't gone to
the
the
town
festival.
the town that I used to live in, they would come, a lot of people would come over to Puerto Viejo after Envision. And so I
Mm.
would just spend the whole week sitting in the cafe listening to the craziest, like still they're floating high on substances conversations. It was wonderful, like so many characters. Wild.
Yay! Fodder for writing. So
Exactly.
Okay. So you said that you've been coasting an income from royalties and mostly just volunteering in your area. And
Mhm.
do you feel like you've recovered from burnout?
I've started to feel like I'm on the edges of recovering in the
Mm-hmm.
last like few months or so. Um, I've started reading more craft books because that's
Mm.
often a way for me to like get back into that energy. I've tried listening to podcasts because that used to be like my thing, right?
Hmm.
Um, but I feel like a lot of the podcasts that are going on now are just kind of like repeats of, the ones that I listened to when I was just starting. And so because the industry is kind of stabilized as far as, well, I mean, we have the AI disruption, but that's a whole different story. But the self-publishing industry, the independent publishing industry has stabilized so much more than it was, when I started up. Started in the industry over 10 years ago, um, even though I wasn't publishing yet, that there's less new changes as quickly.
Hmm.
And so there's just less big things to learn. Like it's all like tiny tidbits. And I feel like I process much more rapidly through reading, and the craft stuff is timeless.
You're right.
So I find myself returning to the craft stuff because honestly, you could learn that over and over and over and glean new things all the
Oh
time.
yeah, really makes you can go deeper and deeper into it for
Yeah.
sure. My podcast listening has changed a lot too, and it's geared less craft, although I did um not sign up. I did subscribe for a couple of crafty kind of podcasts just to like get back into it again.
Mhm.
But mostly it's all been like business podcasts and
Mm.
mindset, manifestation, like that sort of
Yeah.
woo stuff. But I find that really inspiring. And part of part of my um, burnout was emotional, not like burning the candle at both ends. I used to think that was the only burnout,
Way to burn
so
out.
I
Yeah,
didn't
no.
think that I was burnt out, but it sure felt, I was like, is this grief? Because I've done grief before. Like, I kind of know what grief feels like. This feels a little bit different. But so yeah, when I started questioning, like, is this depression? Is this anxiety? Is this grief? Could this be burnout? Then I heard on a podcast about emotional burnout. And I was like, oh, that sounds like what I have. We had 2 years of pretty intense, like, loss.
Yeah, I remember catching some of that. I think because it started what, 3, 4 years ago or more recently.
It was more recently, it was 20, let's see, what
Okay.
year is this? This is 2026 or
2026.
2025?
Yeah.
2024, I
Okay.
think was, or maybe it was 23. I'll have to look in my planner.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was
Because
a
didn't
year
your
of,
husband's mom pass? Did I remember that
yeah,
correctly?
yeah. It was a February. We found out in January that she had cancer. So we changed some other travel plans and tried to get to Turkey as fast as we could. And that ended up being like February 1st. And we were only going to stay for 2 weeks to like say goodbye or whatever,
Yeah.
like visit one last time. And she ended up dying while we were there. Actually, she went into ICU while we were there. And so we changed our travel plans and extended it out a couple more weeks. And she ended up dying like the day we would have left or something,
Oof. Yeah.
So I'm so glad we did that. Anyway, so we were in Turkey for a whole month, which we hadn't planned on. And thankfully, our dog sitter could just miraculously stay for the whole time. And then the day we got home, said hello to the dogs, and 20 minutes later, one of them collapsed and he ended up dying that night, the day we got
Oh
there.
my
So
gosh.
we had his mom's death and all of the chaos and weird shit that happened around that. The caretaker was embezzling money. Like it was a whole weird thing. It was really, really bad. So that whole turkey thing was a big loss. And then our dog dying the day we got home was a horrible hit. And then 2 months later, March, 1 month later. But yeah, it was like 6 weeks. Um, my best friend, we broke up basically.
Oh,
So it was a huge, like, unexpected, weird, like, text fight. And then she
yeah.
didn't ever want to talk with me in person after that. Like, she wouldn't discuss anything. It was just a really strange, like, end. And so it felt really unresolved. And has its own, like, trauma and grief too when things are unresolved. So every month, like February, March, April, like every month there was like this giant loss. Um so so yeah, that was so then by May I was like, I should be over this. I've processed this. Yes, it's sucky, but I've made peace with all of the bits. So why am I still? That was when I was like, is this grief? Am I depressed? Like, and that was when I thought, oh, this is burnout. So I came up with this like regime to get over burnout, like
Oh,
what is
goodness.
what is my body and my mind need to,
Hmm.
like, if I had all the resources and all the, like, nobody would fall apart if I took what I needed. I felt like if I could just, like, rest for 2 weeks, like with no obligations. So I couldn't do that exactly. I
Hmm.
still worked at the bookstore and
Yeah.
had clients and stuff. So I made it be like more like 6 weeks where I just sort of
Hmm.
cleared as much as I possibly could. And by the middle towards the end of the summer, I felt pretty great. I started feeling like energetic, but and then the following year, we had to go back to Turkey to do some more, like, real estate, like clear out her house. That's what it was. We had to clear out
Yeah.
her house, and that was like, it had been a year and some time. And so that was hard on Ali. And he had some really bad losses last year and got laid off, and also lost a friend. So that was really traumatic for him and threw him into a very dark place for a long
Yeah.
time. And that was really hard to live with,
Of
and
course.
how do I support that and not depress myself again,
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of, like, fear for those 2 years of just like, I don't want to trigger myself. I gotta,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
that fear is real. Like, and about anything, like I've gone through burnout multiple times because I don't learn. And it just gets worse every time. But like and then you start to learn what it's like, and then you get this fear of moving forward, of doing too
Yeah,
much because you're like, well, I'm just gonna make it worse
yeah.
if I do too much too soon. But then it's like, when is too soon? Is this okay? Is that okay?
Hmm.
And you lose your trust, your faith in yourself. And that's
Yeah,
probably the most damaging part
yeah,
of the whole burnout process.
yeah. I think so too. So yeah, I also have been getting, kind of the inklings of, wanting to write and getting inspired to write, and giving myself permission to write the things that are coming up and not the things I think I should be writing, because that also
Yeah.
stops me too. And also, trying to build this coaching business, like,
Mhm.
so that's where all my brain power has been, all the decision making
Yeah, all the
has
creative
been,
energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
has been in trying to build business and still create content. And
Mhm.
um so that's a nice handy excuse, but also resistance with an R, capital R.
Yeah.
So
Yep,
I
yep,
can
yep.
see it. I know what I'm
You're like,
doing.
I can see that I'm productively procrastinating.
So yeah, just starting to, so I heard, I got really called out just last week. I was watching a video on YouTube about planning, or no, on, yeah, it was planning content for your YouTube channel. And she called it procrastinating. And I was like, oh no, that's totally what I'm
Yeah.
doing. So yeah, I get stuck in the planning and the making lists and, number one input here. So I like to get
Yeah.
all of the
Get
stuff.
more information, know all the things, but you got to do something with the things.
Right. So, so right now I'm just trying to challenge myself to open up Scrivener, like
Yeah.
every day. Right now I am going back through the artist's way. So I've
Hmm.
reestablished the morning pages, which I never actually stopped. I always write in my journal, but often it's just like a paragraph or, I'm not like diving into the 3 pages. So I'm challenging myself to do that. And I came up with a like list of memories from the trip, you know,
Hmm.
so
Yep.
that I can write that. I knew that was going to be a memoir. Um, but all of my, I talked with you about the memoir that I published a couple years ago.
Hmm.
Um, I remember you interviewed me and we did a story, not a scene diagnostic or something like
Yeah,
that. We were trying to
yeah.
do the 3 C's. It was scene
Yep.
analysis or something like that.
Yeah, scene analysis.
And the benefit of those memoirs that I had written, I wrote them so many years later, like I'd already
Hmm.
processed everything. And so this is so fresh still. I don't
Fresh.
feel like I have any lessons learned yet. There's a couple of like ruminating.
So
So
it's more like a
that's,
recording process currently than anything
yeah.
else
And I don't feel like that's
publishable quite yet, but it might be worthy just to record them for sure.
a record in the journals. Yes, absolutely. But I
Okay.
mean, like, yes, I can't publish anything in terms like it's not written or anything, but
Not
I
connecting.
I struggle with the perfectionism of how do I say this? I don't like learning in public. I don't like
Mm.
looking bad.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have a hard time just showing up and winging it.
Mm.
Which isn't great business advice, but kind of it is, especially when you're unknown. Like this is the time when you just show up and do cringe, on your
Yeah.
pages or whatever.
Well,
So I'm,
it's fascinating because there are some people, Mary Robinette Kowal, she has a hard time writing if she is not in some way performing it. So she kind of writes in public. She has a small group of alpha readers that read each chapter after she finishes it. She's only written one. She wrote it all without anybody seeing her write it. And having that attention pushes her forward. Now she's a performer, she's a puppeteer, like she has that background. I am the complete opposite. If anybody sees, other than a co-writer, sees work that is not yet like at least in a first draft, like all like cohesive, it stops me right in my tracks. I don't want to write anymore. It's
mhm,
like somebody's entered in and polluted the process, if I
right.
permit that. Um, it's just important to know yourself. Like the people who can do that process in public, like sure they might blow up on TikTok and like, they get a lot of attention. But it's just as important to know that you're going to freeze yourself if you try to be that person when you're not.
Yeah. I mean, I like podcasting. I like podcasting. But I mean, I still have to write that content.
Yeah.
So I've been showing up and winging it for a couple years. And my co-host, back in November, his mom got cancer. So he
Mm,
said, I can't
yeah, for this
conf
time.
but yeah.
Hmm.
So I took a sabbatical from the podcast saying, all right, we'll pick this back up in February. Um, because I'm moving to Costa Rica. That's going to take all my brain power. I don't know when I'll have internet, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. So now I'm back and I have ideas, but also that like, do I throw myself into this? I'm tired,
Mm,
like I don't want to, I'm worried about the burnout still
yeah.
after all these years. But, and so all of my energy goes to like trying to build business and create content for the business, for the author coach. But, and so that means that I'm not writing fiction or working on my memoir. But I think that's okay because what's coming out in my journal is nonfiction for
Yeah.
writers. So that's
That's good.
valid, like my content can be used to complete the book. And like I'm working on a nonfiction book for writers anyway, but it's just
Nice.
been kind of, the last couple years I've been working on it here and
Yeah.
there. But I don't know. I don't feel stuck. I just feel tired.
Yeah.
So I don't know
Yeah.
if that is just resistance or if that's still burnout or if that's fear. I think it's fear. I think it's fear
Yeah.
of trying and failing.
It might be, for me, it's often, I mean, I've been in a state of burnout off and on since 2018, which is a long time.
Hmm.
Um,
So do you
and
identify as being in burnout right now? What's
I say I'm on the edge of burnout because I I added a lot of things. So I started homeschooling this year. And that was very nervous because I was like, that could trigger burnout again. Um, and so we added a lot of things because before my kid was in school, so he was gone 7 hours a day, and then all of a sudden we're together all the time. And I added different classes that I have to take him to. That we're doing French class together. I started this language exchange. I started practicing music with some friends and I haven't
Mm.
practiced music. Like there were so many things. We added like, I don't know, 5 to 7 things like on the schedule when I have been like very minimal schedule kind of person, all in 1 month. When school started. So we started theater class again because school
When did school
started
start? Where does school
in
start
in
in Costa
February.
Rica? February?
In
Okay.
February. And so I could definitely feel myself getting overloaded. And I was like, all right, we don't add anything else. We do nothing extra. Nothing else goes on the calendar for at least 1 month, and we'll see. And things definitely evened out. I was like, okay, that's great. Um, that's manageable, right? Um, and and it started being helpful once we got into the routine because I'm like, okay, now I'm up and moving and I'm doing things and I'm having more energy for doing things. That's good. But I suspect that I will feel for the entire rest of my life that I'm always on the edge of burnout because I know how
Mm.
easily I can flip over. And the thing I know I have to pay attention to is when I start feeling resentment for anything. The moment I start feeling resentment that I have to do something, or
That's the
then
trigger flag.
that's a sign that it's no longer feeding me, it's starting to take away from me. Um, and and it has and then just one day where I like if I resent that I have to go to class and it's just one day, that could just be that day, right?
Hmm.
But if I start noticing like I'm having that feeling multiple times in a row, then I'm like, okay, that's our key that this is no longer giving me the benefit that I want out of it. So we need to hit pause on that particular thing so it doesn't roll over into burnout.
Hmm. So I want to go back to what you said about feeling like you will have this. um, condition, whatever, for
On
the
the edge
rest
of
of your
burnout for the
life.
rest of my life. Yeah.
So that sounds kind of like, how do you feel about that?
I think honestly, I just feel like it's just an awareness of like it's kind of like if you've never been majorly sick before, you're not aware of how frail the body is because you've never had to deal with it. But once you are, then you're just aware of it and you just take that into account the rest of your life. Then it makes you treasure your time that you where you're not dealing with that a lot more. And it makes you cautious about, what particular risks you take. So for me, it's not necessarily a physical risk, but an emotional or energy risk. And I'm just constantly aware and making more judgment calls. And especially as we get older and we have less energy, like I think that comes into play as well. Whereas in like
Hmm.
your 20s, you feel like you have limitless energy. You don't,
Right.
but you feel like that. Um,
I think that maybe I'm
and
still operating under that assumption. Like, come on, what's the problem? This used to be so
um,
easy.
yeah, and it's especially when I was like deep in burnout, and it is just so frustrating to like see how much it costs me to get like what little I got done in that day and then be able to recall the times where you were just like the Energizer Bunny for weeks at a time and just like accomplishing mad amounts of things and that just feeling so impossible. But I feel like in between those two is a much more healthy
Hmm.
path of just learning to be more consistent. And if there's a time where you have to, push out more energy, whether it's, an emergency like a loved one sick or dying, that you then know you have to pay for that by consciously taking that rest time afterward. I'm just far more conscious of the emotional costs and debts that I need to pay, or energy costs and debts I need to pay. And like I will never lose that awareness. Like that's with me for the rest of my life.
So would you consider that like pacing? You said consistency. Do you mean pacing or you said you have to be
Yeah,
consistent? Consistent with what?
pacing is probably a good word and just an awareness of like what you're capable any day, any week, with everything else that's on your plate. But just like it's like just constant checks and balances in my brain of like, okay, this week we have these things. Like this last Thursday, I normally try not to plan more than like two. I'm mad introvert. I need my time to myself. And Thursday, I was already originally planned to have like two classes, like two people things that I needed to do that day. Um, and then two last minute kind of emergency, not emergency. One was a birthday party, surprise birthday party. A friend didn't tell us it was the birthday, and we're like, well, we can't let that pass. We have to
Yeah.
celebrate.
Right.
Um, but I was like, okay, I know that this day is going to wipe me flat. It costs me physically. I will be in bed with massive body pain and headaches afterward. It like I will have a hangover so bad it's like I drank alcohol when I did not in fact
Mm.
drink alcohol. And that's part of just autism and introversion and all of that. But this is something that I have to be very aware of these days. So, okay, so this weekend, I don't plan much of anything if I can avoid it. I managed to take a nap during the middle of that day, which, reduced the costs of what I spent
Hmm.
emotionally. And then Friday, I just basically did as little as possible. Um, and some people have a lot more tolerance. They can do a lot more, whether it's just their personality wise, has that space for a lot of chaos, or, they don't haven't gone into burnout and haven't reduced their plate size, everybody's different. And I'm
Hmm.
just going to be constantly aware for the rest of my life. And sometimes, like right now, I test the boundaries. I test the
Mm.
boundaries to see, okay, do I have space for more or do I not? So, this year I'm like, okay, we're going to test these boundaries. I had like haven't necessarily tested them creatively. And I'm like, okay, we have, I don't know, like something like 5 or 6 classes throughout the week that we don't do in the house. And I was like, I don't know how that's going to work, but we're going to try it. And it's worked out well, and it's given me energy and it's given me focus to have those things throughout the week. They're spaced out, nothing's too close together. Um, and that's going super well. Um, the next thing I would love to add to my plate is, and this is a little Costa Rica side note. So Costa Rica does have public libraries, but not everywhere has a public library. We do not have a public library that really has a lot of books in our province. So Limon City does have a library, but there's not really any books in it. Um, and it's definitely not the kind of place that I remember as a public library growing up.
Hmm.
Um, and I and a lot of people, particularly extranjeros, foreigners who've moved here, who have beautiful memories of libraries, have wanted to start a library here. Until the past couple of years, I have not had the Spanish to be able to navigate doing that in community.
Hmm.
Now I do. Um, and so I've been looking at like the different paths that we could take to get there. And I think my first step is I want a trailer to make a mini book mobile
Bookmobile.
with my bike.
Uh-huh.
And then I just take it to the soccer field every Saturday or every Sunday. And with whatever little, selection of books I have and start that way so that I can build the awareness of it in the community and we can hopefully build it into a bigger thing. And I'm like, okay,
That's
that's the next
awesome.
thing that I'm going
Yeah.
to add onto my plate.
Hmm.
And like that, I know that'll cost me because that's a lot of people time. That's a lot of people I don't know time. That's being out in the
Mm.
hot sun time physically. Um, but I'll build it in. I'll have to figure out like where's the balance is. Do I start doing this and then I get volunteers so that I'm doing it one Sunday a month and other people are doing it other Sundays. We'll
Hmm.
get there.
Hmm. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
So awareness, not limiting. So, when I first hear like, okay, it's going to be like this for the rest of my life, I'm like, oh
Hmm.
no, that just feels like this giant limiting belief now that I have. Like, oh, I can't
Mm.
do this because what if it burns me out? So it's not limiting. It's just an awareness. Okay. I have to like
Yeah,
try
and
that on and,
Becca Symes once told me that you know that you're coming out of burnout when the pain of not doing something is greater than the pain of doing
mm,
something. And I
mm-hmm.
think that that's a super useful way to look at it and to kind of pay attention to your body. Once you start getting the hankering to do something, that might not be the moment that you're actually ready to do it, but you can start on that path and start building the structure and the place for you to do that.
That kind of sounds like where I'm at right now. Like I'm starting to build the structure of, okay, I'm writing essays in my journal now. And then I transcribe them and send them to my patrons. And I'm thinking about like what days to put content on and like I'm starting to try to carve out creative time that's
Yeah.
not content time. That does take the creativity and that does um what's the word? It does suck the creativity out of you when you're creating
Yeah.
content. Um, and I'm just reminded that I can do both this forward facing job and create content for that, and I can do creative writing too at the
Yeah.
same time. Lots of people before me have done
Yes.
it. People every day are doing it. So I can, I mean, it feels task switching, but I can open up my Scrivener document and look at it for 20 minutes. I can set a
Hmm.
timer. I can add words or revise something that's already there. And I can do that every day. And that doesn't feel so scary. Like that's not going to
Yeah, one of
take
the
too much.
things Yeah, one of the things I've been trying to do is figure out like what's the mentally the lowest risk way of doing something. For me, a lot of people are like, "Oh, the computer, writing on the computer is so much easier for me because you can just delete it. It doesn't exist. The paper's not real, right?" For me, because I've written so long professionally, commercially, on the computer, that feels so job-like. It feels so like I need to do this responsibility heavy.
Hmm.
So I've been leaning more towards notebooks.
Hmm.
Because I'm like, that one, I could lose that. It's gone. I could spill water on it. It's gone. That's the lowest risk. That's the lowest value way for me to approach things. So I've been leaning more into the paper uh, way of getting my words down and writing, staying away from the computer because the computer feels real to me.
Hmm.
Um,
So you're
it
trying to
also
like
feels like
backdoor into
bullshitty.
it? Like, are you trying to trick
Always, always. I'm
yourself?
always trying to trick myself, 100%. I even like I trick myself into doing dishes by like you just got to wash one dish. You never just wash one dish.
Right.
But I tell myself you can wash one dish. When I was writing and consistently finishing things, if I wasn't feeling like it, you just have to write one sentence. That's all you
Uh-huh.
got to write. You rarely just write one sentence, but you just got to write one sentence. So it's like, oh, my brain's like, that's fine. I can write one sentence. Like,
Hmm.
if, and then I can consider myself successful. Used to be, in my most like depressed days before I moved to Costa Rica, I remember tricking myself into putting laundry away. Be like, you just have to put a sock away. That's it. Just one thing. I'm always backdooring myself into getting things done and being productive. Because it's like, a rolling stone is harder to stop. I don't know. Can't remember
Yeah.
what the actual
It's that
phrase
inertia
is.
that you have to fight against. Like, just get
Yeah, it's like once
started,
we can
just
get
take action.
started, then there's less resistance, right? For creativity, I've been working with my friend Amber, who I believe you know. We're working on a magazine for people from the US who have recently moved
Unbordered. Yeah.
unbordered. I've written a few posts for Substack. Mostly I'm editing. But again, I'm backdooring myself into the creativity process, coming at it from a different way that doesn't have that emotional weight of you need to do this. Um, yeah, it's just however I can trick myself into being creative in different patterns. Um, I do it because I wrote so many books, being like I need to finish this because I need the money, because I need
Hmm.
to serve the readers, because the series has to be finished, because I promised readers, um, without um wanting to do it. Like yes, I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be writing. But I didn't necessarily want to write this particular book. It wasn't like I had to, again, backdooring myself into writing. I have spent a lot of time. Oh, Jennifer Lynn Barnes has a talk that she did for Romance Writers of America, about the id and like finding what are yeah, it's a good one. And then Theodore Taylor wrote Seven Figure. Oh, I can't remember what she called her book, but she calls it the butter. It's the thing that makes a story so tasty to you, like whether as a
Uh-huh.
reader or a writer, as like, and it may not have anything to do with like what the plot is. It could be a setting, it could be a type of character, it could be just imagery that you like. If you really like stories about secret identities or twins or spies, like those could be
Hmm.
the things that just get you really excited. For me, neurodivergent and differently abled characters are like that can get me writing about something even when the rest of the trappings are like less interesting to me. And I can think of one book in particular, like I gave one of the main characters a really snarky sister who had cerebral palsy, and another one where one of the characters was super ADHD. One of my favorite books is a character who's autistic, but we never say it, and the readers clocked it, and I love that. I love when they see like all of that I put in there but didn't say. And I have been trying to do that, to trying to like kind of recreate that list of things that makes a story juicy for me. But again, it's still too close to the path of like planning out a book and like
Mm.
and planning it and creating it, that I then feel the resistance. So I'm like still having to find other ways to come at it from the back door.
Do you think you'll ever outline again?
I think so, but I think it's going to be, what I have to do is I have to write a story. This is what I think. have to write a story that's not in the romance genre. It could have romance in it, but it needs to not be in the romance genre because currently my brain only knows how to sit down and structure a romance story.
Hmm.
Anything else, and I start to feel like this, just this really intense dissonance that's very uncomfortable and stops me. Um, and
If you're trying
I
to
need to
outline a story that's not romance, or if you
Yeah, because I'm
try,
like, this
okay,
isn't right. Like my brain's like, this isn't right. This isn't how it works. But then if I try and do like plot a romance story, I'm like, this is boring. It's trite. I don't like it. Be and not because romance stories are boring and trite, but because my experience with my last few books was forcing myself, right?
yeah.
And so to me, they were. Um, and those particular books. And so yeah, like I have to find a way to right now, they're redoing our road because it's close to Holy Week here in Costa Rica, and we're gonna have a lot of people out here. So they're, tearing up the road, and like it has all these massive potholes, and they're putting down new dirt and smoothing it out. And I got to find a way to do that. That's not just bulldozing through my brain. I've got to find a way to fix those, rough trodden paths that have all these potholes in them. Um, but I can't just come in there with a bulldozer because that's not working.
And outlining is bulldozing.
Yeah.
Do you need to outline? I mean, that's been your process so far, but do you
I
feel like
don't, I
you're
think,
reinventing
yeah,
yourself as a writer?
yeah, I definitely do. Because I've succeeded in romance for so long. I have not published anything long form that is not romance, ever. Um, and I need to find what it is that I truly enjoy writing, like what arc of story I
Hmm.
enjoy writing, what gives me satisfaction,
And you think that will be
when I
the
come
way
to
to
the
get
end of the
in?
book. Yeah, I think once I can do it one time, then I'll probably be able to return to outlining. Um, but I don't know, I probably need to try like the Dean Wesley Smith of like reverse outlining, write a chapter, go back, reverse outline, rewrite or edit, as I go. He does this cycling process, um, where he writes like 500 words, then goes back and looks at his outline, edits, writes the next 500 words. That's one way. Uh, a, a as a zero draft or a skeleton draft might be a way where I just, quick write and, don't fully flesh out conversations. I don't know if that would feel satisfying to me, where
Hmm.
you write some scenes fully, but you don't others. I don't know if that, I just need to get back into trying things. One of the things I've been struggling with is just not finding the kernel of an idea that's interesting enough for me to like hook on and follow. And I think that that's partially because my brain's already like trying to plot ahead instead of just
Mm.
exploring.
Hmm.
And so I haven't figured out a way to trick my brain around that one yet.
It's hard to identify. I identify as a writer. I am a writer. I publish books. I write
Yeah.
every day,
Like
but
like the majority of my money comes from writing that I did years ago. Like
right.
that, I- I'm still a novelist. That's how my money comes in.
But yet, like, how do I maintain this identity of how long can I call myself a writer if I'm not currently putting words on the page? So that's why I wanted to get some ideas
You
from
know,
you.
one of my favorite authors, or like favorite books, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I think the
Hmm.
author's name is Suzanne Collins. I'm not 100%. No,
Yeah, I know
Susanna
that
Clark,
book.
that's her name.
Hmm.
As far as I know, she's only written one other book since then. I would still call her a writer. I think that's like what, 2 books in 20 years, something like that, maybe less. Um, I was like, I would still call them a writer. And so like I have to think, well, what would be my litmus for calling other people's writers? Because then you have to apply it to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say
Yeah.
one of the interesting things for me is when I have been most active and most happy in my writing life is when I've had constant, consistent connection with other writers.
Hmm.
And living in Costa Rica has limited that.
Mm.
Not visiting the US has limited that for me. Because that gives me so much energy. I used to joke, but it's not a joke, it's very true, that half the reason that I want to be a writer is so that I can get in with other writers because writers are so cool and I just want to be one of the cool kids.
Right?
Um,
We're a club
but
of weird
right?
writer friends. Yay.
Like I just remember like looking at like Mary Robinette Caldwell and Brandon Sanderson, Howard Taylor, and Dan Wells. I was like, don't forget his name. And like, and then and like this little cabal of like friends, and then they had their little groups of friends. I was like, I want to be that writer crew. And then I realized I was like, no, 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 like we're gonna have our own cool little writer groups that people are gonna be jealous of someday. Um, but yeah, like half the reason I write is for that connection with other writers. And not having that connection. And like that was a part of the honestly one of the biggest like emotional hits of losing my co-writer is that was somebody I talked to about writing
Hmm.
all the time. Um, and yeah, it just like that when that burnout started rolling and I had to remove myself from writer spaces for the time because there was too much internal sense of responsibility
Hmm.
that I was not in a place to meet. And like I
Yeah.
still talk to so many people, just not consistently,
Hmm.
who've been in our writer groups and been our writer friends. Um, but yeah, not having kind of accountability and like, people to do writing sprints with. Rachel,
Karen?
Heron, thank you. Um, she has a relatively cheap um, group for people who want to write in sprints.
Hmm.
Um, and I used to have, friends that I would do that with all through COVID. Like I had a group that it was like mostly UK, but we'd meet at like 4 o'clock my time and we'd
Hmm.
write for a couple hours, half hour of writing, a few minutes of talking, half hour writing, some of the most productive times of my life. But because I haven't been writing and publishing consistently, I've lost access to those particular um, groups. And everybody's else is in their own routines and rhythms that we don't necessarily match up right now. So I'm like, okay, I really do need to seek out some form of that connection. So I've been considering joining Rachel's um, writing sprints group just for something. It's at specific,
Hmm.
hours that work with my schedule. I'm like, okay, maybe that's a good first step, another
Hmm.
way to backdoor myself into
Yeah.
reconnecting with my
Maybe we can do
creative
something
self.
too. Just a little write-in,
That'd be
just you and
lovely.
me.
Yeah, sounds good.
Rachel Says
Um,
Right is the name of it.
yeah, and it's in the morning. And mornings are have traditionally been my writing time. My brain is just more me.
Fresh.
Um, but some of the craziest, funniest stuff I've written has been when I'm like half dead at night, which is not ideal, right? Um, it's a
And
little
oh
less
my
possible
God,
when you're a
I've only been
mom.
here a month and my total routine has gone out the window. Like
Yeah.
I got up at 4:30 this morning.
Oh yeah.
I went to
Oh
bed at
yeah.
like 9 o'clock last night.
That's my everyday. I went out
What?
from 7 to 9 for that friend's birthday party the other day. And I was so wiped. I was like, "Pff, normally I'm in bed at 7, we're just chilling for 2 hours, like reading, listening to audiobooks, and then I'm like out between 9 and 10. Like, I don't go
Yeah.
out at night.
When we were in the
Um,
States, my husband and I would watch TV until like 11, something
yeah.
like that at night. And sometimes
But
he
that
would
sun
stay
gets you
up
up.
with the sun and the howler monkeys and the
And
dogs
it's
and
so
everything.
consistent. The sun is so
Yeah.
consistent. Like the longest and shortest day are less than like 45 minutes apart. And so like
Right.
that changes your how like when you live in the States, you're used to that variation between winter and summer, especially as far north as you were.
Hmm.
New York is about the same. When we went up post-COVID to visit, like that messed with my brain so much. I was so used to my 12-hour days
Uh-huh.
that we'd be like, the sun is at like 4 o'clock in the sky, but
Hmm.
I'm exhausted because it's actually 7
Yeah.
and the sun is going down in 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. We only get like one episode of something a night now, and we're like, should we watch another one? Well, maybe not. I'm gonna go brush my teeth.
Yeah. I know that there's other authors in Costa Rica, both Costa Rican and non-Costa Rican. Maybe we need to set up a little writing event at some point. And
Yeah, I used to host writing retreats in the summer in
Mhm.
Oregon,
Yeah.
and I didn't do it, for 2025 because I knew I was moving. But I did 3 or 4 years in a row, and I loved it, and I want to do it again. Probably it would be for people in the States that want to come, to Costa
Yeah, I
Rica
mean
for a
it.
writing retreat. But for local, I mean, I think it would be awesome if we did maybe like a 1 day, like
Hmm.
a seminar or workshop or something where we
Yeah.
had like 2 or 3 sessions of something and a write-in or like a three C,
Dude, we could we
workshop.
could do this. We could do this at this botanical garden in Heredia that's like 15 minutes from the airport.
Okay.
If we went for Central Valley, they've got a beautiful they've got a beautiful space. I don't know how much they charge. They do weddings there, but I'm like, well, we're just cheap writers. Like, how much would you charge us? And they've got beautiful gardens and you can see out over the Central Valley. We'll have to
Yeah, we'll research
look at that.
places. But that's a cool idea. I just wouldn't be confident in my Spanish speaking ability.
Hmm.
So I can teach in English, but I don't know how. I guess that's the limit for me. And
Yeah.
like you said with your library project, like now you have enough Spanish that you could
Hmm.
do it.
Yeah.
Um, and I do love teaching. So I think that
Well,
would
I'm a
both.
decent translator. I do it a lot for different things, community things. So,
Well, I definitely would like to build writing community here. That's for
hmm.
sure. Even if it starts out online.
Yeah.
So I think it would be fun to plan another Zoom meeting
Yeah.
and write or just talk shop, or
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
it
Are you
could
more a
be,
morning or afternoon writing person?
I don't know anymore.
Hmm.
It used to be morning, like 10 to 2 was kind of my best creative times, but now with the heat, I haven't quite
It's so hot,
acclimated.
right? I
You know,
know.
Basically
It
the
saps
only
your brain.
routine that we have instilled in our house in this last 30 days has been going to the pool almost every afternoon. Once 2 o'clock hits, we're like, okay.
That's a good time. That's a good time.
So morning writing sounds better to me.
Yeah.
But also being inside and not in the heat, like if I'm
Hmm.
gonna do errands or work or working out or anything like that, it's much better to do it in the morning when it's still
Yeah.
not too hot. So anywhere between 10 and 2, I think is probably the best time.
Okay.
But I'm open to anything, like we could
Okay.
write it 8 o'clock in the morning if you wanted to, one day a
Yeah.
week or something, and just
Well,
try it out. Like I just don't even know. And that's part of my process right now is like
hmm.
figuring out. Kevin Tumlinson wrote a blog post. I just shared it on my Facebook page a couple like last month or something, and it was all about like not trying to stuff yourself in the schedule that worked before, and
Yeah.
instead like being open and just letting it like, oh, what feels good? I guess when I'm here, this is the way I'm doing things. So I'm open to any new. I just don't know what it is yet. So we
Yeah.
can try a
Um,
time, and if it works,
yeah,
cool. If it's not, then we'll move it.
yeah. Did you ever read the book 2K to 10K by Rachel Aaron? Very short little book. And she
Hmm.
talked about how she went from writing 2,000 words, 10,000 words a day.
I read it like 7 years ago, though, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
there's one part she talks about how she like religiously tracked like where she was, what she
Oh
was
yeah.
doing, what time of day, and she thought she was like best in the morning and like she found like that her actual best time was like a different time at the cafe. She
Mm-hmm.
figured out like what, and then just made that happen more. And I was like,
Right.
that's awesome. I'm not yet to that level of productivity. We're not
Yeah. I'm
there. Like, we
not a
just
good
need to get to
tracker at
writing.
all.
I can be a good tractor, but I just need to start writing. Like, I don't need to put the
If
trappings of
if I could
productivity
just
on it
open up my
yet.
Scrivener document, then I'll feel like I win.
So,
Okay, well, I'm gonna go to the pool now because it's
enjoy
late
the
in the
pool.
afternoon. It was awesome catching up with you
It
again.
was so lovely catching up with you as
And
well.
yeah, let's look at our schedules and pick a day
Yes,
randomly and a time randomly. We'll
and then
just give it
try
a
it.
shot. And we'll
Yeah,
open up our
perfect.
Scrivener documents together.
I'll do my notebook.
Oh, okay. Yes.
All right, Val.
Awesome.
Talk to
All
you
right.
later.
See you
Bye.
later. Bye bye.